The Philadelphia Eagles OTAs have been extremely eventful so far, with lots of important news dropping, giving us our first look at the 2023 squad, but also revealing many different things. Now, some of the most important news to come out of OTAs is in regards to the running back position, as this is arguably going to be the most interesting position to watch as we wrap up OTAs and eventually get into training camp. And in all honesty, the Eagles have a huge decision to make here, as they have multiple great running backs on the roster, but we don't know who's going to be the starter, how much playing time each one's going to get, or what exact role they're going to be used in next season. Well, we've gotten a couple pieces of news recently that could potentially reveal what the Eagles are planning to do in regards to the running back position, and we're going to talk all about that in this video today, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. The running back position became a position of question for the Eagles ever since the offseason began, as their lead back over the past 4 seasons in Miles Sanders was set to become a free agent, and despite what he had accomplished in his time as an Eagle and him also coming off his best career season where he got his first Pro Bowl selection, it seemed unlikely he would be back with the team in 2023 because of the amount of money that he was set to earn, as the Eagles typically don't like to pay running backs, and this situation turned out to be no different, as Miles Sanders left to sign with the Carolina Panthers in free agency on a 4-year, $25 million deal, and this left the Eagles with a huge decision to make at running back. Now, at the time that free agency began, the Eagles really only had one legitimate candidate for the running back #1 job on their roster, and that was Kenneth Gainwell, but it seemed like the Eagles certainly were not comfortable with Gainwell being their one and only option, so they immediately went out into free agency to address this position. So the first thing that the Eagles did is they signed former Seahawks running back Rashaad Penny to a 1-year deal, and I thought that this was a good move right away. I mean, Rashaad Penny is a physical runner who has been one of the better backs in the league in short spurts. I believe he's averaged over 6 yards per carry the last 2 seasons. The only problem with Penny has been his ability to stay healthy, as he's suffered multiple serious injuries throughout the course of his career so far, and that's why I ended up liking the deal that they signed him to, which was only for 1 year and for an incredibly low price, so it was a very low risk, high reward kind of move in that way. And of course, the Eagles also brought back Boston Scott on a 1-year deal, which I also liked. Obviously, Boston Scott has carved out a career for himself in the NFL in his time with the Eagles so far. He's had success with them before, most notably in games against the New York Giants, which has given him the nickname the Giant Killer, and pretty much all Eagles fans love Boston Scott, and they were able to get this deal done for very cheap as well. So overall, I just thought this was a good move to keep some continuity and bring some depth to the running back room. But the Eagles weren't done adding to the running back room just yet, as they made probably their biggest acquisition at the running back position on the 3rd day of the NFL draft, as they made a trade with the Detroit Lions to get DeAndre Swift along with a 7th round pick, while giving up their 7th rounder and a 2025 4th round pick. Now, this trade excited Eagles fans, including myself, because Swift is an unbelievably talented player. He's got some great speed, good ball carrier vision, he's got good explosiveness as well as agility and elusiveness, and he can run between the tackles as well as catch the ball out of the backfield. And this is one of the best parts about this acquisition, in my opinion, is his elite receiving ability. The only problem with Swift is that he has struggled to stay healthy throughout the course of his career so far with the Lions, and that's going to be the most important thing for him this year, is just to stay healthy and stay on the field. But still, it's not too risky of a move because he's on the last year of his rookie scale contract and he's not being paid too much whatsoever. And all these moves created a very good backfield consisting of 4 guys that all have the chance to make significant contributions to the team this year. And something else that's worth noting about this is that if you combine all the salaries of DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, Rashaad Penny, and Boston Scott, it's still less than what Miles Sanders will be making alone this year with the Carolina Panthers. So this just shows another stroke of genius from Eagles GM Howie Roseman. But now that the backfield is set in terms of the players, the next few questions become, well, who's going to be the starter? What's the pecking order going to be? How much playing time are each of these guys going to get? What role are each of these guys going to be used in this offense? Well, let's dive into that a little bit. Now, heading into OTAs, I think we all expected that DeAndre Swift would get the nod to start because, first off, he's probably the biggest name out of all the guys the Eagles have in the running back room, and also the most talented and the guy with the most potential. It just seemed like he was the natural fit as the starter. And I always thought that one of the things that gave him the leg up as the possible starter over the others is his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Now, I'm not saying that the other guys can't do this, but I definitely think that so far throughout the course of his career, Swift has proven to be a legitimate weapon catching passes out of the backfield, and that's something that the other guys, even though they've been able to have success in spurts catching the ball, haven't been able to do as effectively as Swift has. And a recent report from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN only strengthened the general belief that Swift would be the starter, as he said, quote, "I'm hearing the Eagles are really excited about the acquisition of running back DeAndre Swift from a pass-catching standpoint." And then he goes on to elaborate more about Swift's ability in the receiving game, as well as how he could potentially help Jalen Hurts. And this is a report that I've already talked about more extensively in my previous video, and I more so looked at it from the angle of Jalen Hurts' development. So if you want to go check that out after watching this video, you can. But going back to how this is going to affect who starts at running back, I think this only strengthens DeAndre Swift's case, and it makes it seem like he's the clear favorite. However, we definitely can't count out some of these other guys, and I think there's one that actually has a legitimate chance to push Swift for the starting job, and that is Kenneth Gainwell, and there's been a couple things coming out recently to support this possibility. And don't worry, we're going to get into all of that, but before we do, I just ask you one favor. If you are enjoying this video and you want to see others like it, make sure you go down and subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss another upload coming in the future. Around 80% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you're one of those people and you're enjoying the content, just make sure you go fix that and click the subscribe button. I think that's a win-win situation for both of us. Now, for one, we had Gainwell taking first-team reps during OTAs last week, which was interesting for sure, but that did make sense because he's been here for a couple seasons now, while DeAndre Swift and Rashaad Penny are new acquisitions, and obviously it was only the first few days of OTAs and you can't really read too much into that at all. But the thing that really made me think about this as a real possibility is when Gainwell sat down to do his media availability just a couple days ago, where he was asked what he expects his role to be this year, and this is what he said.
What role are you expecting?
I'm expecting a very high role. I'm just going to continue to improve my game, still on top of everything that I have done. But I'm expecting a high role this year.
So this definitely raised some eyebrows. I feel like a lot of guys, if they were asked this question, would give the typical cookie cutter answer of being like, oh, well, I'm just going to come in and do the best in the role that they give me, and it doesn't really matter what that is. I just got to come in every day and play my role to the best of my ability. But here, Kenny straight up said, no, I expect to have a big role this year, and I feel he wouldn't have said that unless he legitimately knew that that was the case. At least that's how I took it. Now, Gainwell was later asked about his receiving ability as well as DeAndre Swift's and what that can help bring to the Eagles offense, which, as we just talked about, is one of the things the Eagles are most excited about with bringing in DeAndre Swift, but Kenneth Gainwell expects to be able to contribute in the receiving game as well. Take a listen here.
So you'd be effective catching the ball out of the backfield multiple times last year. DeAndre also brings that same ability. Do you expect that you might see more of that this year offensively from what the Eagles can bring?
I expect both of us to do the same thing. We both can catch the ball out of the backfield and run the ball, so that's just going to put an extra step on team to have to come in here and just game plan harder.
And this is really exciting to hear if you're someone who's rooting for Gainwell, and I definitely think it's very possible for him to have success in the receiving game because we've seen it in the past with him before. Whether it be in his limited opportunities so far in the NFL or in college, he's been able to have success catching passes out of the backfield. And again, according to that report by Jeremy Fowler about DeAndre Swift and his receiving ability, it seems like catching out of the backfield is something that's going to be really important to the Eagles this year. And if Kenny's someone that's able to do that effectively as well as run the ball well, it seems to me like he's got a real shot to have a big role in this offense. And in addition to all of this, Nick Sirianni was asked about the state of the backfield today in his press conference, and this is what he said.
Man, it's like we got backs that we got a really deep room there, and you're excited about the competition that that we're gonna have there. Backs get a little bit more chance to shine when the pads come on, right? Now they're still out there doing some things, and Kenny and DeAndre have done a really nice job in the receiving area, and so has Boston. They all have, but really Kenny and DeAndre have done a nice job there. But some of those competitions sort itself out when they get the pads on, especially with that position. But man, we're deep there. It's a good problem to have, and as a coach, and I know, it's just a really good problem. So we're really deep at that spot. It's going to be great battles to who makes this football team, and they're all going to be able to contribute in some sort of way.
So there you go. He mentioned Kenneth Gainwell and DeAndre Swift by name, and he specifically talked about their receiving ability. And I think judging by what Sirianni said here and everything else we've been hearing during OTAs in the offseason, it seems like DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell look like they're the top two running backs on the roster, and both have a very real shot to be the starter. But still, like Sirianni also said, they are very deep at the running back position, and all the guys are going to contribute in some sort of way. And most importantly, he also said that this is going to be a great competition, and one that probably won't be over until training camp gets going, and maybe till that's over as well, because at the end of the day, we are just in OTAs right now. I mean, who's to say that Rashaad Penny can't push to be the starter once we get to training camp? I mean, this is a guy very similarly to DeAndre Swift who has a lot of talent, has shown a lot of flashes of potential, and had success in this league before. It's just they've been very limited by injuries. And Penny also offers a very unique skill set that DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell don't have, and that is his physical running style, as he's a bigger back and he can be really effective in short yardage scenarios. And I think for that reason, Penny is also going to have a pretty significant role on this team. Now, do I think he'll start or get the most snaps at running back? No, I don't, but I definitely do think that he will get a good amount of snaps and be a significant contributor to this offense. Now for Boston Scott, I think his role is going to be pretty similar to the past couple seasons. I don't think he really has a legit chance to start. I think he's going to have pretty limited opportunities, but when he's called upon, he will be ready and he's going to make the most of those opportunities. And obviously, when they play the New York Giants, he's going to go off because that's just what he does. He's the giant killer. And also, a new role for Boston Scott is being the veteran leader in the running back room, as he's now the longest tenured running back on the roster. So again, I definitely think that Scott has a role on this team that matters. It's just not as big as the other guys. I think as of now, if I had to predict the pecking order in terms of running backs for the 2023 season, I would say it's going to look very similar to 2017, which had a running back by committee system, which had three major contributors in LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi, and Corey Clement, except this year it's going to be DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, and Rashaad Penny with some Boston Scott mixed in. I would guess Swift ends up being the starter and gets probably the most touches out of all these guys, while Kenneth Gainwell is the running back number 2, and Rashaad Penny ends up being their short yardage back at the running back number 3. But at the end of the day, I think they could all get pretty similar snap counts, and it might change from week to week based on matchups, but again, we won't really see how it works out until after training camp, and I really could see this going a lot of different directions. Maybe they want to use DeAndre Swift some weeks as more of a feature back, but maybe other weeks it's Kenneth Gainwell who's going to get most of the carries. There might be games where they just use Gainwell as a third down back or a 2-minute back, and then Rashaad Penny as a power back, but there might be other games where they get more of a heavy workload. I really think they have so many of these guys that are talented enough to get a lot of carries, and they can be successful doing that, and I think it might change from week to week who ends up getting most of the workload. Now, like I said earlier, I definitely think DeAndre Swift is the most talented of all these guys, which is why I think he's going to end up being the starter. But also, based on all the things that have come out recently about Kenneth Gainwell, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we get to week 1 and he has a very big role, maybe even is the starter. And I'm really excited for him to get his opportunity as well, because I think he's going to shine in his bigger newfound role. But I also expect for Swift to have a great year. I expect for Rashaad Penny to have a pretty good year, and I expect Scott to do what he's always done, just be consistent and have a solid year for the Eagles as well. Overall, I'm just really excited about what the Eagles got at the running back position, and I just can't wait to see how these battles play out once we get into training camp. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Who do you think is going to end up starting at running back? How much do you think each of these guys are going to be used? What roles do you think they're going to be used in? I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on that. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like on it and subscribe so you don't miss any others like it coming in the future. And if you want to watch another Eagles video talking about Jalen Hurts' potential development with the help of DeAndre Swift, you can go watch this right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.